On the afternoon of November 24th, 1971, a man in a dark suit walked up to the Northwest Orient ticket counter at Portland International Airport. He was calm, polite, forgettable. He paid $20 in cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle. The name he gave was Dan Cooper. Within a few hours, that name would become one of the greatest mysteries in American history. Because this man was about to hijack a commercial airliner, extort $200,000 from the FBI, and then jump out of the back of a Boeing 727 into a freezing Pacific Northwest storm. He was never seen again. No body, no parachute, no definitive trace. More than 50 years later, the FBI has officially closed the case. But the world has not. This is the story of D.B. Cooper, the man who vanished. To understand how someone could pull off the only unsolved hijacking in American aviation history, you have to go back to a very different era of air travel. In 1971, boarding a plane was almost like boarding a bus. There were no metal detectors at most airports, no X-ray machines, no screening of carry-on bags. Passengers walked from the curb, straight to the gate, straight onto the plane. Cooper took advantage of every single one of those gaps. He was described by witnesses as a white man in his mid-40s, around 6 feet tall, dark hair combed back, wearing a black raincoat, a dark business suit, a white shirt, and a thin black tie. He carried a black attaché case. He looked like every other businessman in America. Flight 305 was a short hop, Portland to Seattle, just 36 passengers and 6 crew members on board. Cooper took seat 18E near the back of the cabin. He ordered a bourbon and soda. He lit a cigarette. And then, shortly after takeoff, he handed a folded note to the flight attendant sitting beside him. Her name was Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was a phone number from a lonely passenger. She slipped the note into her pocket without reading it. Cooper leaned over and whispered 6 words that would change her life. "Miss, you'd better look at that note." She unfolded the paper. The message was typed in neat capital letters. "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I want you to sit beside me." Florence sat down. Cooper opened his attaché case just enough for her to see inside. Red cylinders, wires, a battery. Whether it was real or not, no one would ever know for sure. He gave her a new note to deliver to the captain. His demands were specific. $200,000 in $20 bills, 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserve, and a fuel truck waiting at Seattle to refuel the plane the moment it landed. If anyone tried to stop him, he would detonate the bomb. The captain radioed Seattle. Within minutes, the FBI, the airline, and the local police were scrambling. And here is where the story gets even stranger. Northwest Orient agreed to pay every dollar. They wanted those passengers off that plane alive. For nearly 2 hours, Cooper kept the other passengers completely unaware. He sipped his bourbon. He paid his drink tab. He even offered the flight attendant the change. He was, by every account, the most polite hijacker imaginable. When Flight 305 finally landed in Seattle, the plane taxied to a remote part of the runway. The money and the parachutes were delivered. Cooper inspected everything carefully. Then, he let all 36 passengers go. He let 2 of the flight attendants leave as well. He kept the pilot, the co-pilot, the flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, on board. And then he gave the cockpit a new set of instructions. Take off again. Fly south, toward Mexico City. But fly low, below 10,000 feet. Keep the landing gear down. Keep the wing flaps at 15 degrees. keep the cabin unpressurized, and keep the speed under 200 knots. Every one of those demands told the FBI something terrifying. This man knew exactly what he was doing. Those flight specifications were not random. They were the precise conditions needed to safely jump out of the back of a Boeing 727 in midair. The 727 had a unique feature, a rear staircase called the aft air stair that could be lowered from the tail of the aircraft in flight. Cooper knew about it. He had clearly studied it. As the plane climbed back into the sky over Washington state, a brutal storm was rolling in. Freezing rain, howling winds, temperatures near zero. Visibility? Almost nothing. Cooper ordered Tina Mucklow to show him how to operate the air stair. Then he sent her to the cockpit with the rest of the crew. He told her to close the curtain behind her, and he was alone. At approximately 8:13 p.m., somewhere over the dense, wild forests of southwestern Washington, the cockpit instruments registered a sudden change in pressure, a bump, a shift. Cooper had opened the staircase. And then he jumped into the darkness, into the storm, into history. Wearing a business suit, a raincoat, loafers on his feet, with 21 pounds of cash strapped to his body. When the plane finally landed in Reno, Nevada, FBI agents stormed the cabin. It was empty. The money was gone. 2 of the 4 parachutes were gone. D.B. Cooper was gone. What followed was one of the largest manhunts in American history. Hundreds of FBI agents, local police, National Guard troops, helicopters, search dogs. They combed thousands of square miles of forest, rivers, lakes, mountains. They searched for weeks, then months, then years. And they found absolutely nothing. No body, no parachute, no briefcase, no bomb. Not a single $20 bill. It was as if the man had simply evaporated. Quick note about the name. The hijacker called himself Dan Cooper, but during the chaos of the early reporting, a journalist confused the name with another suspect named D.B. Cooper. The wrong name went out on the wire. And it stuck. Forever. The legend of D.B. Cooper was born from a typo. Over the next 5 decades, the FBI investigated more than 1,000 serious suspects. There was Richard McCoy, a Vietnam veteran and skilled parachutist who hijacked another plane just months later using almost the exact same method. He was captured. He denied being Cooper until his death. There was Kenneth Christensen, a former paratrooper and Northwest Orient employee who, on his deathbed, told his brother, "There is something you should know, but I cannot tell you." There was Dwayne Weber, a career criminal whose own wife came forward years later, claiming he had whispered on his deathbed, "I'm Dan Cooper." And there was Robert Rackstraw, a former Army pilot and demolitions expert with a long criminal history, whom an entire team of cold case investigators became convinced was the man. The FBI cleared all of them, or could not prove any of them. Then, in 1980, something incredible happened. A young boy named Brian Ingram was on a family camping trip along the Columbia River in an area called Tina Bar. He was building a fire pit in the sand. His fingers brushed against something strange. Bundles of decaying $20 bills held together by rotting rubber bands. The FBI confirmed the serial numbers. It was Cooper's money. $5,800 of it. But the discovery raised more questions than it answered. The money was found miles from the FBI's calculated jump zone. The bills were stacked in a way that suggested they had been buried, not washed downstream. And the rest of the cash? The other $194,000? Never found. Not one bill anywhere in the world. In 2016, after 45 years of investigation, the FBI officially suspended the case. They had run out of leads. But amateur sleuths, retired agents, documentary filmmakers, and obsessed researchers never stopped looking. So who was D.B. Cooper? Was he a brilliant criminal mastermind who pulled off the perfect crime and disappeared into a new life? Was he a desperate man who died on impact in the freezing forests of Washington, his bones still lying somewhere beneath the moss? Was he a paratrooper, a pilot's enemy? We may never know. And maybe that is exactly why his story refuses to die. In an age of cameras on every corner, DNA databases, and digital footprints that follow us everywhere, D.B. Cooper represents something we have almost completely lost. The possibility of vanishing. Of stepping out of a plane, into a storm, into the night, and simply ceasing to exist. Somewhere out there, the answer might still be waiting, buried in a riverbank, hidden in an old man's memory, tucked inside a trunk in someone's attic. Or maybe it jumped out of that plane on November 24th, 1971, and was carried away forever by the wind. I'm curious what you think. Do you believe Cooper survived the jump, or did the forest swallow him that night? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button for more unsolved mysteries. Thanks for watching.